What's up, everybody? Welcome to CFP Talks. My name is Joe Nissom, and I'm with the fresh off the bowl attendance, Mr. David Fuchs. What's up, David?
I was like hoping you weren't going to be like fresh off the bowl loss. I was like, is he really going to go there?
I mean, so, I, but
If you wanted to really tug me, yeah, but yeah,
as a
what's
Knicks
good?
fan, I want how they say misery loves company. As a
Oh,
Knicks fan, that's I see other teams lose,
so
and
you're like you want to just see like the world burn and everybody be miserable.
only Philly. Only Philly.
Only Philly.
Only Philly. As long as it's just Joel Embiid and the 76ers, I'm okay with that.
All
Everybody else,
right.
I want to see them.
Fair. That's fair. That's fair.
So let's talk a little bit about this last month.
Yeah, let's
So,
do it.
we are first week of February right now. Uh,
Yep.
now, and we're a little outside of that 1 month period, but some things for you CFPs to start thinking about because this is the calendar turn that I think freaks everybody out, right? Because in January, I'm still 2 months away. But now when I see that February and now that clock,
Hmm.
that ticker starts going from 60 days to 50, and now we're in the 40s, or maybe we're now teetering in on that 38 day, 39 days away, especially because February is a short month. This is when panic for most of us starts to set in, or we start moving a little quicker. We start kind of really settling into the process. This is when it really feels real.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that. I remember when the calendar flipped for me, and that's when it started to get really real.
CFA is a little cruel like this where they have a counter on their website. So every time you log into the CFA portal,
That's
like
cruel.
45 days into the exam, 10 days, and you're kind of like, and
That's very cruel.
you start seeing the 30, anything with a three in front of it. And it's like,
And
oh,
that, and actually that I was actually gonna mine was more or less it was actually like around the 31 day mark. Obviously that's typically the month, but it was more for me when it was like now we have 4 weeks left because I always did it by the weeks, not the days.
hmm,
And I never was like, oh, 62 days, 47 days. I was always like, I got 8 weeks, I got 7 weeks, I got 6 weeks. When it then turned to 4 weeks, when I looked at the calendar and it hit me that I only had 4 weeks left, I remember distinctly. Now, it wasn't like I was sitting there having a full-blown panic attack about it, but I do distinctly remember having like a very quick sensation of a pit in my stomach, like, holy shit, like this is getting real. And I know that this last month is going to fly by.
yeah.
And that's one of the main things that I think that if you're listening to this now and you're taking the exam in March, that you should know is that the last few weeks and the last month in particular is going to absolutely fly by.
It does absolutely fly by. And there's something, and I don't know what it particularly is, but being 2 months out feels like the exam is really far away.
It does. It does.
Right? But being 1 month away feels like, oh my God, this is now next door. Like I have to now start really being ready. And for I think most people, this is the point where they start going, now I'm gonna do everything that I need to do to put myself in a position to pass.
Hmm.
And now kind of and there's just something about seeing that three, right? That just
Yeah. Well,
it makes it
it's
really
not.
real.
Yeah. Well, but not necessarily the three, I would say, only because the three can be 39, 38, where you still have like 5 or 6 weeks left. It's like when you get to like the threes and it's like in the next few days, we're eventually going to hit the two.
Yeah.
Like when you get to like that 32-day mark or the 31-day mark, and there's still a three in front of it, but you like, oh, in basically a day or two, we're going to be down under 30 days. And again, like my always fear, not fear, but like what always kind of kept me up and freaked me out a little bit was knowing how little time I actually had. And it's like you start thinking to yourself, you're like, all right, I have a month left. I still need to do this, 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 and this. I still need to learn this, 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 and this. I still have to do my mock exam. I still need to allocate time to learn all these very complicated topics. Like, do I have enough time to
Mm,
actually get all of this done?
yeah.
Because when you have like 2 months left, when you have like, even 6 weeks, 7 weeks, you're like, yeah, you can sometimes feel overwhelmed with the amount of work you still have to do. But you then in the back of your pocket know you're like, all right, well, I have 6 weeks, I have 7 weeks, I have 8 weeks to do this. When you get under that 30-day mark and you're within 4 weeks, you're like, shit, like I don't know if I have as much time as I need to prep for the exam.
It there and I gotta be honest, like it's the point where most people make bad decisions is right here at this point because all the dilly-dallying catches up with you. It's again,
That's a
like,
great, that's a
right?
great point.
So like now it's like, when I'm at the 2 month mark, I woke up on Saturday. I had every intention to study. I went to the gym. By the time I got back, we had to run out. We had a lunch plan. I was going to come home from the lunch plan, and lunch turned into a day out, and I was supposed to go home and study, and I didn't study that Saturday. I did study on Sunday, but obviously now what I was supposed to get done in the weekend got chopped in half, even if I have a productive Sunday. And it's all those little things that end up catching up with you. It's more so now, and it's again the point where most people want to go, I'm going to hit the panic button and I'm going to try to now make up everything that I didn't do in the previous 2 months. I'm now trying to start making up, and I got to make it up now before this
Real
goes
quick.
to the 20s.
Mhm.
And I think it's a recipe for failure because it's you can't do it. So now you have to start making decisions as to what you're going to do and not do. And the one number one thing that I would tell anybody in that position is you have to start making the hard decisions of what you're going to do and what you're not going to do.
Yeah.
Because you can't make up all of it. If you do, amazing job, great. But the thing is like life doesn't stop. So the things that are around you don't necessarily just stop unless you go into full study mode, shut down your business, shut down everything, and you're studying all the time. You can't make up 2 months of work in 1 month without
Hmm.
absolutely killing yourself. So now the hard decisions have to be made. And if you are the person that hasn't dilly-dallied, has taken this process seriously, has done everything that you have to do, that didn't necessarily have distractions going on, and it's still the time to make decisions. I don't care
Hmm.
where you are in the process because even if I've done everything at this point that I need to have done, you're still going to have struggle points. You're still
Yeah.
going to have things that you're struggling with or you're not understanding. And at some point in the next week or two, you're going to have to make a decision of, I'm going to let this topic go and I'm going to double down on this topic and know it inside.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. The last month is definitely where you're going to have to make some decisions because if you did, as you said, dilly-dally, in the month, the weeks leading up to it, you're likely going to be overloaded with the things that you have to do if you want to be 100%. And that's just going to be physically impossible because here's the thing, you can, I guess, you certainly do have hours in the day, but you also don't want to feel like you're burned out and overwhelmed, the week leading up to the exam. So you do have to make decisions because it's a balancing act at that point because it's like you have to balance in this last month and
Mm,
you do a really good job at enforcing um, you know, this strategy with your people, with your students in that the last month, the first couple months, it's grind material, study, read, answer questions, learn definitions, etc., calculations. In the last month, and especially in I would say 2 weeks leading up to the exam, it's a balancing act of how much am I going to actually put in how much work am I going to put in, and then how much work am I going to put in on my body and my mind to make sure that I am ready to go on game day. And
Mm.
sometimes, and it's counterintuitive when you're talking about answering questions on an exam, but sometimes it actually is more beneficial to get rest and get your mind and body right over reading another chapter or
Mm.
taking another quiz just to learn
Yeah, I couldn't disagree or couldn't agree more
them.
because, when I think about it, it's like think about like the CFP as a like a giant tree, right? Like a absolutely giant, like giant like sequoia tree. But you have an axe that's this big. You can only take so many swings of the axe before you have to cut it down for the day and go, all right, that's it. So when we think about it that way, like your job is to chop at it instead of trying to chunk it. And this is the mistake that everybody makes is I'm going to chunk it, I'm going to chunk it, I'm going to chunk it. And then eventually you start burning out because you you try to replicate repetition with time and you can't do it. Like there's just no way around it. It's like, if I was and the easiest way to think about this is if I'm playing basketball, all right, and I'm trying to learn how to shoot free throws. The most important thing that any coach will tell you is 100 a day, not 150 and then 50 the next day, 100 a
hmm
day. And 100 a day means 100 a day. And if that takes you 30 minutes or 40 minutes to do, that's all it is. But you can't replicate 7 days by taking 700 shots in a day and go, okay, I got
Right.
the work done. It's just, I did 100. If I miss that day, that means I got to tack on another day at the end. And that consistency is going to be the key. So when you're studying, your consistency is more important. And especially at this phase of the game, if you have dilly dallied now, you're putting yourself in a position where you still want to make sure that you're doing what you need to do outside of studying, but now the number of days that you can take off are going to be limited. It's not
Yeah.
zero, but they're limited. So,
Yeah.
but just remember that you can study 10 hours a day, but you're still only probably going to get 4 or 5 hours worth of work done. So
Yeah.
you might as well rest those other 5 hours. It's going to feel good. It's going to feel like the right thing to do. That little voice in the back of your head will tell you that you need to study 10 hours. All right. And we do this all the time. And you see people do this, right? They'll go and work a 12-hour shift or work 70 hours in a week. How many weeks can you do that in a row before your body starts to fall apart? You start getting really tired. Your quality of work starts going down. Your performance starts lagging.
Totally.
You need that break. So, even though what you're doing every day may not feel like I'm doing as much as I possibly can every day, you need to cut it at that level that allows you to fight another day.
Yeah. 100%. And that is being productive, in my opinion. Getting your body right and resting up. Like that's just as productive as learning a concept. Obviously, resting is not going to directly, result in you answering a question right on the exam, but getting your mind and body right is, in my opinion, just as productive.
It's hard. It's hard. It's hard to sit there, especially when we have phones and tech and iPads and all these things that keep reminding you should be studying, right? And
hmm
it's just a very
hmm
hard thing to kind of wrap your head around that is I'm being productive by not doing anything. It's a
Right.
hard concept
Exactly.
to wrap your mind around, right? And
Yeah.
when you do it, when you're moving your physical body, it's much more obvious because you get so tired. You can't move anymore.
hmm
But again, think about it in this respect. If I'm going to the gym for 4 hours, how productive are you the next day?
Yeah. Exactly.
Right? Especially if you've been going to the gym for an hour every other day or twice a week or 3 times a week and you've been really inconsistent and then one day you decide I'm going to flip a switch and I'm going to go to the gym for 4 hours a day, that's putting hell on your body,
Totally.
right?
Absolutely.
So focus is the paramount. Remember that you're probably only going to get done 70% of what you think you can get done. 80% if we're being really, really generous, but 70 because if you set out to do 10 things in a day, you're likely to get done seven. So chunk it down and do things with more quality and focus on these items as opposed to making a laundry list that's 40 items long and then feeling guilty and bad when you can only get 10 of them done.
Yep.
So focus is your best friend at this point. Underestimate what you can do and then go beyond that, but don't run around and try to do 10,000 things. This is not the time. Now is the time to focus, set your sights on three or four things per day, knock those out and continue to do that day after day.
Yep.
All right, everybody, we hope that you found this episode helpful. With any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to reach out to David or myself. And please make sure to like and subscribe this channel. And we will see you guys on our next episode.